I mean, when he jumped forward, he yanked me so hard. I mean, he drugged me to next week. This one time at band camp, no, I'm just kidding. So I got a story that you probably will not believe, which is how a lot of my stories go, because most of my semi-injury stories are due to freak accidents rather than actually being hurt by a horse. And I would just like to think that it's because I have some kind of superior skills to most. But the fact is that I'm just a mere mortal and I can be injured just like everyone else. So I had a client that sent me a horse from Minnesota, and he's a big horse, let's say. He's probably 18 hands high, right? Which is tall. Like, that's taller than me, if you can believe that. And he's gonna be a dressage horse. So I have him in the cross ties in my barn, and behind my cross ties is open. So there's a door back there, and the cross ties face my alley. And this horse is, you know, new to the program, so he doesn't know the ins and the outs and everything that's going down, and I have no idea what he's gonna do or not, anything, right? So he tried to nip at me a little bit, so I gently touched his lip with my hand, and that tended to set a precedent which I did not fully understand at that moment. So I go around, put the dressage pad on him, get my saddle, put it on top of him, everything's cool. I go to cinch him up, and he just kind of looked at me, right? I mean, and if you've trained enough horses, you understand when they just kind of look at you. You know, like sometimes my wife, she'll give me that look when I come up with one of my ideas, like, you know what I mean? Like, you just better get your shit straight. And so he kind of looked at me like that. So I was just a little bit concerned, but I just went on with my program. So I go ahead, hook up the other strap on my dressage saddle, and this time he sits back. Now, when I mean sit back, I mean I'm talking like hell's fury. Now we've got like 18, 19 hands of horse sitting in the cross ties all the way back with the head of his tail on the ground. I mean, he looked like a dressage reiner. You know what I mean? Like, it was the prettiest thing that I had ever seen. But now, my cross ties are surrounded by 2 tilt wall concrete walls, right? So there's no way to escape out the side. So I'm running, and I'm pushing like this. So his butt's up against me, and he's pushing me, literally just pushing me outside the barn, which is cool. So I'm thinking, okay, it's safe. I missed a big shit storm, and I'm standing outside the barn. So now I'm about 8-10 feet past where the end of my cross ties are at, right? So this big thing is still sitting back. All of a sudden, he jumps forward, and I promise you, God is my witness, I went horizontal. So all of a sudden, I'm yanked down by one leg. And I mean, when I say yanked down, I mean, it's not like when he jumped forward, I hit the ground and I scooted. I mean, when he jumped forward, he yanked me so hard. I mean, he drugged me to next week, right? I mean, like, it was a bad deal. So I'm laying on my back in the cross ties with this horse standing in front of me, and my barn help is yelling at me, "You're hurt, you're hurt." And then for a moment I'm thinking, maybe I am hurt, because I didn't know what happened. Like, life flashed in front of me like that. So I happened to look down, and I kid you not, his tail, which was impressively long and thick prior to said incident, had wrapped around the shank on my spur. So when I'm standing there thinking that I'm safe 10 feet away from the rear end of this horse, when this big sucker jumped forward, he yanked me by one leg. Now, I'm not the most limber of people, and my legs go pretty well forward and backward, but all of a sudden, he ripped my hip sideways, and I was planking through the air on my back. Looked like the Wicked Witch. And all of a sudden, I hit the ground, bam, flat on my back, with this big sucker standing on top of me. Now, The only thing that probably saved my life was the fact that my help did not bother to braid his tail up that day. Because if his tail had gotten braided up and my shank got stuck in a braid, I probably would have got my belly danced on and ended up like Ginger Duke. But the good thing was none of that happened. So I ripped out a pretty good chunk of his tail that we could probably make a lead rope out of. And I think I might have dislocated my hip. But I soldiered through because that's just the kind of guy I am. So when you think that nothing is ever going to happen to you that cannot be more obscure and random, always remember that the world has a funny way of playing cruel tricks on you, no matter who you are and how safe you think you can be. Hope you enjoyed today's episode of Horse Stories on Global Horse Network. We'd like to thank this month's sponsor, Snafflebit Clothing Company, for all your horse and apparel needs. Visit them on the web at snafflebitclothingcompany.com. If you like what we're doing or you don't, make sure that you put it in the comments below, because there's nothing I like better than to aggravate somebody like a sandburr under your saddle pad. Be sure to share our stuff on all the social media platforms, because that's what all the cool kids are doing. Be sure to subscribe if you like what we're doing. If you want to be notified whenever we're posting new content and some kick-ass stuff, click on the notification bell. If you like what we're doing, click the like button. If you hate what we're doing, click that bad boy twice, because there's nothing that I enjoy more than a good hater. And as always, ride hard, be safe, and have fun.